Call of Duty Black Ops, we wanted to take players to an entirely new place and give them entirely new gameplay experiences, something they hadn't done yet with Call of Duty. And the era was perfect for that. And as we were doing our research and learning about these secret wars and these deniable operations and all this covert warfare that was going on underneath the layer of what people were seeing, they thought there was, it's this Cold War and Vietnam War and all this, but meanwhile there's these black operations that are going on between the two superpowers. And as we learned about those, we learned about the black operations and the kinds of soldiers and the elite forces that were conducting these operations. It just inspired all kinds of creativity and let us go and do things that Call of Duty hadn't done yet. Our game is not a game about the Vietnam War. It takes place during an era that also includes the Vietnam War. And of course, there were black operations that occurred, operations that people didn't know about during that era. And we'll be tackling that part of it, and it isn't the war itself. I would say that Call of Duty Black Ops takes the gloves off. Treyarch hasn't been afraid to do that in the past, and you should expect no different from Call of Duty Black Ops. We wanted to actually work with some people who conducted these black operations. So we worked with Major John Plaster, who is one of the most published authors. But he himself was SOG, was a Studies and Observations Group. That's what they were called, kind of an innocuous title for this group, and had extensive experiences in Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War. Conducting these black operations, and so he came to our studio and shared his experiences with us, everything from his training to the tactics and strategies that they'd use to some intimate experiences that they had. And it definitely stimulated the thought of our designers and our creatives in the studio to come up with some of the gameplay that we did. We also talked to the other side. We talked to Russian and Soviet Spetsnaz during that era. And this is not the Russia of today. It is the Soviet Union, the formidable power that it was. So, and he was an inspiring individual, to say the least, as he talked about his training and what they would do. One of the things, as I mentioned, with Call of Duty Black Ops that we wanted to do was come up with all kinds of new, fresh gameplay. The idea to use alternative forms of ammo actually came from talking with some of these veterans, and they actually talked about packing their own ammo for the purposes that they wanted or that they needed. The bow and arrow or the crossbow was actually inspired by a couple of things. One is we were doing some research, and we learned that some of the indigenous people that worked in Vietnam, that worked with some of the special forces there, did actually use bow and arrow during their missions. It's a great stealth weapon, and if you're effective with it, obviously incredibly lethal, and you can go undetected. So we learned about that, and then we also heard from Major John Plaster that there was a member of SOG who would always choose a bow and arrow as he was going out on his missions. Now, in the mission that we have it actually featured in, you're behind enemy lines inside the Soviet Union, and it just seemed like the perfect device to be able, as it was, it comes up during a stealth sequence. We don't want the player to get detected, and it seemed like the perfect way that you might want to modify your weaponry to place a really explosive incendiary device at range without being detected. And the other weapon is the Dragon's Breath shotgun shell. Well, as far as we're concerned, we're creating a Black Ops game, so we did research on all different types of alternate forms of ammo. So when we're looking at it, much like the, inspired by these Black Ops soldiers, we look at a mission and we're like, well, what should our loadout be? And whatever was in our arsenal was what we chose. And who's to say that they didn't? Everything they did was classified.
This is it! Go, go, go!
We definitely have a huge focus on character, both the characters that you're playing with, and since this covers a broad period of time, those characters are progress, and they're going to change over time as the situations change, as the conflicts change that you're involved in. The player will actually have a voice in this Call of Duty, and that's actually the first time the character is going to have a voice, and that's a bit of a risky thing to do for a first-person game. But we felt like it was really important. If we're trying to attach the player and make them tell a story and tell an important narrative, we felt like at some point it was important for you to respond. And to be a part of this. And it was actually important. Communication is clearly important as you're going into hotspots and things like that. So expect to see a lot more of that in the game. And we're drilling down on you as a character, and you're going to play a couple of different characters in this game. Actually, I showed you a level where within one level you actually played multiple characters. So, but you'll play a couple of primary characters in this game, and you're going to get to know these characters, and you're going to get to know the characters around you. A character that people have been asking about is the guy with the tattoos. That's Woods, and you'll see him. And when you have seen him in this last level, he was part of SOG. But you've seen him you'll see him in other parts of his military career as well. And so throughout time, and you will. Our goal is definitely to tell a deep story and have strong character arcs in our game, and engross the player at the gameplay level, but also at the story level. We're working on our own unique co-op mode, and while that hasn't been revealed yet, Treyarch's done a lot of co-op gameplay in the past, and the guys have been designing a really fun co-op mode. It's like single players are our epic cinematic single player, multiplayer, huge addictive multiplayer with that we're gonna, we're going real deep on that, and that's where you'll be able to hone your skills and play competitively. And then we look at co-op as like, hey, that's when I want to sit back on the couch and just have fun with friends and blast away. And so we're creating some unique gameplay modes for that. We basically took the engine from World at War where it was, and that had heavy modifications to it, and we've definitely upgraded everything. Upgraded the lighting. We call it Jungles 2.0. It's like we're going to Southeast Asia, and we're definitely going to be populating that. The water. Just everything, the effects, all that running at 60 frames per second while we are trying to create some of the biggest battles and portraying sort of the biggest landscapes that can be done on the next generation of consoles. Hopefully people enjoy the trailer, and everything you see in it is from the game, is actual gameplay. You can vouch for it, and we're excited to just share more of it with you coming up, and we're going to be releasing here in November. On November 9th, and we're going to be releasing on the 360, the PS3, the PC, and the Wii. And the PC will have dedicated servers.